evening, welcome to Central News for Thursday the 23rd of January. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Whether you are a beginner who has only just come off training wheels or an expert who rides the roads with ease, the Avanti-Drome REV Cycle Festival has a race for you. It all takes place on Saturday the 22nd of February and is organised by U Leisure. General Manager Kevin Andreas explains how the REV is gaining momentum.
We get lots of feedback from our cyclists that take part, and many of them tell us it's one of their top 5 events to do in the country. So I guess it's through the experience they're gaining there, they're telling their friends, and people are coming on board as new participants and experiencing the Avanti-Drome REV Cycle Festival for themselves.
Work on Hamilton's Ring Road network is speeding ahead with construction of 2 additional lanes on Wairere Drive. Project Manager at Hamilton City Council, Tal Lawrence, says that work is on schedule to be finished by January the 24th.
Yeah, it is on schedule. We've had the road closed for the last almost 2 weeks now to carry out some really critical components of the project. But as a whole, the project is still well on track for completion in September of this year.
Lake Rotoiti water quality is the best it has been in decades, and this can only be good for fisheries, say experts from Fish and Game, NIWA and the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. Regional Council General Manager Natural Resource Operations Warwick Murray says water quality improvements were a result of interventions through the Rosarua Te Arawa Lakes program, and that was great news for the community, the Crown and the program. He says the Auhau diversion wall has been extremely successful improving water quality. This, coupled with sewage reticulation, has meant they have reached the water quality target for the lake. Now for our region's weather, Hamilton, your Friday will be fine with southwesterly dying out. Your expected high is 23 and an overnight low of 9. Fine for you, Tauranga, with the westerly dying out. Your expected high is 24 and an overnight low of 14. Just ahead, promotion of alcohol, how it has changed. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Alcohol licensees can no longer promote the consumption of alcohol, and as Sergeant Nigel McGlone explains, the new law is a little complicated, but most predict it will be for the best. What are the changes around the promotion of alcohol?
So the promotion of alcohol relates mainly to licensees and people who own shops. They can't be seen to promoting the excessive consumption of alcohol, and they can't be seen to be advertising alcohol that is possibly discounted at more than 25% of what you would normally pay for it. Now that gets a bit technical, but in essence they can't have signage outside their premises or viewable from outside their premises that would give those indications to people that they're going to get free drinks, or if they buy a drink they're going to get some sort of prize or advantage. And it's really just around not attracting people into the premises for that purpose, but rather people will go in there anyway, and if they happen to go in there and then there's a promotion there, then they can take advantage of that. But it's about not drawing people in simply for the purpose of getting heavily discounted alcohol or free alcohol or a gift or a prize because of the fact they purchase alcohol. So
can we still have happy hours?
Not as long as they're not promoting heavily discounted drinks, you can still have a happy hour. So there's nothing wrong still with having a billboard outside your premise saying happy hour from 5 till 7. It's not telling you what the happy hour is. It may encourage you to go in because it's happy hour, but you're certainly not going in for any other reason than the fact that you're probably going to enjoy some sort of a discount, but it's not specifically advertised.
It's quite a technical law.
It can be, yeah, and it's going to until it's really tested. We're still just playing quite a middle ground with it. Because I know a lot of licensees are having trouble getting their head around it as well, and trying to figure out what they can and can't do, because it even extends to to a situation of Facebook advertising and internet advertising. So they have to be careful around what they do on those mediums outside of their licensed premise.
So at the moment, the police are kind of focusing more on education.
Well, we're trying to educate ourselves as well, to be fair. With new legislation and anything like this, we have to find our feet with it, help them too, and at some stage someone's going to put a test case before the Liquor Licensing Authority, and we'll get some sort of guidelines out of it then.
Have most establishments complied with these new laws over the festive season?
It's only been less than a month now since the new legislation came into effect. So we've had occasion to speak to a couple in relation to the exterior advertising, particularly in relation to flyers and Facebook matters, just to let them know that they might be treading a fine line. But we certainly haven't had a need to take any enforcement action as such against anyone, no.
If you'd like to find out the ins and outs of the new law, I found justice.gov.nz very useful in explaining the details. If you have drunk too much over the festive season, perhaps a way to detox would be to get in amongst the fresh air and do a half marathon.
It's not too late to start training for some of the events at the Podium Marathon. If you're thinking of doing the marathon, I'd probably say maybe hold on for next year. But if you've got a good base fitness, you could definitely do the half marathon, and even if you're a total newbie to trail running and adventure racing, you could definitely give the 10K a go. You can walk it, you can run it, you can walk and run it, and it's just generally a really nice place to be, so get involved and give it a go.
Is off-road running harsher on the joints, or is it easier?
If anything, it's the other way around. Road running can really kind of hammer your joints because you're running on quite a hard surface, whereas trail running, because you're running on grass and mud, it's actually a lot softer on your joints. And then the other thing is when you're trail running, you run a lot more on your forefoot, up on your toes, so you add in kind of an extra joint in your ankle, so it really softens it up on your knees and can make it a lot easier on your joints. I've often found with a lot of clients, they can run off trail and in the trails, but they really can't do any road running because it's just too hard on the hips and the knees.
So it creates an almost extra joint in the ankle?
Well, it's not an extra joint in the ankle, but when people run on the road, they often land on their heel, whereas when they're in the trails, they run up on their toes because they're trying to get grip, so your joint actually helps to give you a bit of suspension.
Can you tell me a little bit about Beyond Adventure Racing?
So Beyond Adventure Racing started off nearly a year ago now, basically creating an opportunity for people to try out adventure races, so not just the road running, and we found this amazing venue which is the Techt All Terrain Park, and we thought, hey, let's start doing some events up here. So we started off last March doing a beginner biathlon, and this will be our 8th event in the year. So this is going to conclude our yearly of the calendar, basically.
What other events have you guys got coming up?
So as I just mentioned, the beginner biathlon. It's a much shorter distance than a marathon, and it entails also a mountain bike ride as well. So it's very short distances. It's a real beginner step to adventure racing. So it's a 5K trail run plus a 6K mountain bike ride. Really simple trails just to get people into it. Nothing too harsh, nothing too scary. Just to give people that taster of what it is, and hopefully they get on to more and more events.
What is it about running out in the countryside that you enjoy as opposed to the road?
Oh man, you can't beat it, Just like coming from an office every day and then being able to just get outside. Hence why we moved from England to New Zealand. This is why we came here. We just love the outdoors. It's just a brilliant place to be.
It's not too late to register. Visit Beyond Adventure Racing's website. Coming up after the break, horses for sale. Welcome back. With over 1,300 yearlings for sale, the 88th National Yearling Sales Series at Karaka is the place to be if you're thinking of getting into racing. Racing journalist Tim Ryan spoke with Anne-Marie Case-Miller about these iconic horse sales.
What are the Karaka Sales Series all about?
Well, they're about the studs and the breeders taking their horses to the market, really. And it's not just about that, not about just selling the yearlings, it's about them promoting their stallions, their breed, their pedigrees, and their skills at preparing a horse for sale.
Can anyone bid on and purchase a horse at the Karaka Sales?
Definitely. That's what the sales company wants, but there are procedures to go through pre-sale. But if you do that, you go and see the sales company 5 minutes before the horse you want to buy is in the ring, really. It's that simple, and prove that you can pay for it, well, away you go.
What's the buzz around this year's sale?
Pretty good. Like in the lead up to this sale, we've had sales in Australia, the Magic Millions, the Spring Classic in Sydney, and they've both been outstanding. They've had good clearance rates, very good averages and aggregates, so it's looking pretty positive.
Tell me about the difference between the Premier sale and the 3-day Select sale.
Premier sale is, as it suggests, the premier horses. Like they buy the very commercial stallions, the horses that are there, they buy fashionable stallions, and they're out of the very best breeds in New Zealand and some from Australia. Quite a few Australian breeds in there too, but they're absolutely creme de la creme of the pedigrees, you know. So, and then you go, it just drops down slightly to the Select sale. Still very strong pedigrees, but it's the type of horse that's in the Select sale. Some very good horses come out of there, so that's basically the difference.
Will someone love a day at the sales?
Oh yeah, there's lots of colour and excitement, you know, and there's action. There's action everywhere, and you know, when you're watching a horse go through the ring and it's selling for $2 million, everyone gets a buzz, you know. People are like, wow, and that's happening on a regular basis at the Premier. So not 2 million, but high prices.
How many yearlings are for sale this year?
There's probably just over 1,400 catalogued. A few will be withdrawn for one reason or another, but they'll sell between 1,300 and 1,400 over the 6 days of sales, and it's a lot of horses to choose from.
The Hamilton City Council's draft psychoactive substances policy proposes to restrict sales of the products to certain areas within Hamilton City. Anne-Marie spoke with the Chair of Strategy and Policy Councillor Angela O'Leary regarding the proposed locations.
The 2 locations that Council have put in the policy to consult on only, the first one is the CBD. The Central Business District area in town has a high amount of CCTV cameras, and obviously there's lots of people around, so there's sort of an active surveillance that goes along with that. The Waikato DHB and the police are in favour of that location. The second location or second option that we've put in the policy is the CBD and Te Rapa, and that's Te Rapa Road, so it's an industrial area. The third option that we've put is tell us what you know, maybe someone out there's got a better idea, because Council doesn't want these anywhere in the city, but we just can't ban them.
Why a Central City focus? Is it because of the CCTVs?
It is because of the CCTVs and the sheer number of people that are here. It's also easier on police resources because they walk the beat, and there's also City Safe officers here. So it really is just a sort of a concentration of people and activity that make that I guess it's going to make it safer.
Is there a fear that having these so-called puff shops in the CBD are going to make it a less inviting place to dine, to socialise and more importantly to shop?
Yes, there is a very real fear, and I agree with that. I think that it will. The puff shop that's in Hamilton East at the moment overnight has dramatically changed that area, and that's just unacceptable. And I think, you know, it's not unrealistic to assume that if we go with just the CBD, you're just going to pick those problems up and you're going to put them in the Central Business District. It's just not, it's not good.
Can anyone make a submission on this particular policy?
Yes, anyone can make a submission on this policy, and I really encourage them to do that. We need to hear the community's views, and as I said, Council doesn't want this. We would love to ban it from the city, but we can't. We can't break the law. And I'm also encouraging people that I talk to please lobby their local MPs and the new candidates. It's a central government election year this year. They need to understand how dramatic these legal highs are having on our community.
Make sure you have your say on the Hamilton City Council draft psychoactive substances policy. Go to hamilton.co.nz/consultation. Just ahead, how to clean up a canal. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. Bay of Plenty Regional Council is working with the community to clean up dioxin contamination of the sediment in the Kopiopio Canal. The canal was contaminated in the 1950s to the late 1980s as a result of stormwater runoff from the local sawmill, which treated timber using pentachlorophenol, PCP. The PCP contained dioxins as an impurity. I spoke with Ken Tarberton from the council to see what the project involves.
The project is in two phases. The first phase is to contain those pathways of exposure, and the first phase is undertaken by actually taking the sediment out of the canal and putting it in 3 containment sites. At each site the sediment is enclosed in a fabric layer called a geofabric that allows water to pass through, but it doesn't allow the sediment to pass through. And once it's contained, that's actually safe to the community.
What does bioremediation mean?
The second phase is bioremediating, which is actually breaking down the dioxin through fungi and plant action to break it down and actually neutralize it. And that is done through putting plants in there, and their roots actually have this chemical reaction and break it down.
And that soil will then be safe to put back to the earth?
In time, that soil would be safe. It would stay where it is. There's no reason to actually remove it, but it would be safe, and the trees that would be planted as part of the bioremediation would remain in place, or could be harvested, or something else could be planted in that area.
Where are you placing the sediment?
The sediment is put in 3 sites, so there are 3 sites along the 4.5 kilometre stretch of the canal, and the sediment is put there and kept there for the remainder of the project.
Will there be a heightened risk of flooding?
No, there won't actually. At any point in time, there's a risk of flooding. We could have a big flood next week. The project itself, by taking the sediment out of the canal, provides more storage in the canal, so there should be a slight reduction in the risk of flooding. If there was flooding right now, that dioxin contaminated sediment could flood onto adjacent lands. After the project has been done, if flooding occurred, it would be basically water and clean sediment, so a lot safer to the community.
And of course you can view the council's website, boprc.gov.nz, to find out more about the Kopiopio Canal Contamination Remediation Project. Looking to the skies now, something to do this weekend is the Classic Flyers Air Show on Sunday in Tauranga. Central News found out what to expect.
Oh, we've got a number of jet fighters coming in. First and foremost, though, you're standing in front of the Legacy Jet Centre, and we've got about 5 or 6 jets here, which will be on a static display out at the front. But then we've got the Venom, the A37, and a number of other jets, all which will be roaring through the sky at various parts of the day.
And if we look to the skies, what kind of aerobatics can we see?
Oh, there's a tremendous number of acrobatic displays. Most aircraft to display properly will be doing some form of aerobatics. But we have got a couple of specialist aerobatic operators who will come on at various times during the day. Really cool what they do.
And the Royal New Zealand Air Force will be here?
Royal New Zealand Air Force will be here. They're starting the display actually with their Hercules. They're dropping the Kiwi Blue, that's their parachute display team. So right at the start of the display, it's worth getting here on time, 10 o'clock. You'll see the parachuters drop in, and then a Hercules will land after them, not in the middle of them we hope. But that's the only display they will actually be doing with the Hercules. The Sea Sprite will come on later on, and that will be doing a display with the police dogs.
What do you think will be the highlights?
Oh, the highlight, as always, there's 2 highlights, I have to say. The first highlight, of course, is we are commemorating the 100 years since the start of the First World War. And so one of the highlights has to be the 4 First World War fighters, which will be dogfighting. There'll be two German and 2 British dogfighters, which will be dogfighting over the display. Because they are such slow aircraft, you really do need to come into the air display. You won't be able to really view it much from the outside. The other highlight, of course, is the finale, the grand finale, when, of course, again, we have pyrotechnics going off, we have dogfights going off, we have aircraft wheeling through the sky. Great event, great crowd favourite, always goes down well, and gives everybody a real buzz as they go away.
How can we find out more information and get tickets?
Okay, we've priced the tickets very competitively, but there are a number of different options you can choose. So the best way is to go to our website, which is www.classicflyersnz.com, or you can give us a ring on 07 572 4000.
Email us here at Central News or like us on Facebook and message us through there. Coming up tomorrow night, I head to the Jet Sprints for a sneak peek at the world first in Tauranga, so make sure you tune in for that one. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.